Long ago, in a time when the rain still listened to songs and the wind carried stories across the rolling hills, there was a small village nestled at the edge of the great savanna. In this village lived a young boy named Brian. His hut was modest and his clothes were tattered, but his heart was as vast and generous as the tallest baobab tree. Brian's family was very poor. They owned only a few goats and a small patch of dry, cracked soil. More often than not, they went to bed with empty stomachs, listening to the lonely whistle of the wind as it slipped through the cracks in their hut. The other children in the village, however, were not as kind as Brian. They would often laugh at him. "Look at Brian," they would taunt. "He wears rags and eats dust for dinner. He probably dreams of food he'll never even taste." They would exclude him from their games, pushing him aside, and sometimes even throwing pebbles at the gourd he used to carry water. But through it all, Brian never retaliated. He never fought back or said an unkind word. He would simply offer a gentle smile and say, "Even a poor man's heart can be full." His spirit remained unbroken, his kindness unshaken. One scorching afternoon, with the sun hanging like a ball of fire in the sky, Brian ventured into the forest. He was hoping to find some wild fruits for his hungry mother. As he walked along the dusty path, he saw an old woman sitting under the shade of a dying tree. Her clothes were even more torn than his. Her feet were blistered from walking, and her eyes were dim with exhaustion and hunger. Brian's own stomach grumbled with emptiness, a familiar and painful reminder of his own hunger. But seeing her suffering, he felt a deep well of compassion rise within him. He walked over to her, knelt down, and said in a soft voice, "Grandmother, please, you must be hungry. Take this. I have a little bread and some water." He offered her the meager meal he had packed for himself, his only food for the day. The old woman's hands trembled as she accepted the offering. She ate the bread and drank the water slowly, her frail body absorbing the nourishment. When she had finished, she looked up at Brian, and something extraordinary happened. Her eyes, which had been so dull and lifeless, now sparkled with the brilliance of morning dew. "Brian," she said, her voice now clear and strong, "you have fed more than just my body. You have fed my spirit. Remember this, kindness never walks alone. It always finds its way back home." And then, right before his astonished eyes, she began to rise. She transformed into a swirl of golden wind, a beautiful shimmering light, and disappeared into the air with a gentle whoosh. Brian stood there, speechless, realizing he had just met a spirit of the savannah. That very night, something magical occurred. Dark, heavy clouds gathered over the village. A low rumble echoed across the plains, growing louder until a brilliant flash of lightning split the sky. Then, the rain began to fall. It was the first rain in many, many months. It poured down, drenching the parched earth, filling the dry riverbeds, and bringing life back to the land. The rivers began to sing again, and the whole world seemed to sigh in relief. When the morning sun rose, it revealed a miracle. Brian's small, barren patch of land had been transformed. It was now a vast, lush field, overflowing with ripe maize, pumpkins, and beans. His few goats had multiplied, and a crystal-clear stream of fresh water now flowed right beside his hut. It was a picture of abundance and life. The other villagers awoke to a startling sight. Brian's land was green and vibrant, a paradise of plenty, while their own fields remained as dry and barren as before. They gathered in hushed groups, whispering in disbelief. "How can this be?" they asked one another. "We who mocked him and had so much now have nothing, while he has everything." As the days turned into weeks, hunger began to creep into every house in the village. Every house, that is, except for Brian's. Finally, the same children and families who had once bullied him came to his home. They were thin, weak, and their faces were etched with shame. They bowed their heads before him. "Brian," they said, their voices trembling, Please, forgive us. We were cruel to you when you were nothing but kind to us." Brian looked at their downcast faces, his eyes as gentle and calm as the river after the rain. He didn't hold any anger or resentment in his heart. "Come," he said softly, beckoning them forward. "Sit and eat. There is enough for all." He welcomed them into his home, shared his bountiful food, and laughed with them. He even gave them seeds from his own harvest so they could plant their fields again. As they all sat together, sharing a meal as a community reborn, a soft wind rustled through the village. It seemed to carry a whisper on its breath, a timeless truth for all to hear. He who shares from little receives in plenty. He who mocks the humble learns from hunger. From that day forward, Brian was no longer the outcast. He was loved and respected by everyone. The villagers, inspired by his example, worked together to build a school. They named it the House of Brian, a place where children would learn the most important lesson of all, that true wealth lives not in what you have in your pockets, but in the kindness you hold in your heart. And even today, when the full moon shines bright over the fertile fields of Africa, the elders gather the children and tell them the story of the boy who shared his last meal. They tell the story of Brian, the boy who proved that a single act of kindness is more powerful, more valuable, and more enduring than all the gold in the world. For it is a simple truth that greed will dry the soul, but kindness will water every heart it touches. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more tales that warm the heart. We'll see you in the next video.